You don't need 900 pages of rules to have tactical, fun combat and an absolute ton of character options. Hey there, adventurers. Welcome back to Short Rest Studios. I'm Judd, and my mission is to scout the RPG landscape for you. I map out the game so you don't have to quest alone. Dungeons & Dragons 5.5 is a marked improvement over 5e in many ways, but there is one game that is what a lot of folks, including me, think that new edition should have been, and that game is Nimble. You've heard me talk about Nimble's combat and character creation, but today I'm telling you every reason that I'm giving up D&D and taking my campaign to Nimble. Nimble is rules tight. That's the actual term used to describe Nimble by Evan Diaz, the man who designed it, because it doesn't just strip down the rules to the bare bones for the sake of fewer rules. It was actually built to solve problems that GMs like us face every game night. Combat, magic, wading through character abilities, trying to run legendary monsters. Nimble at least tries to address everything that causes your game to grind to a halt. The system does away with dead weight like ability scores.
What would you say you do here?
You don't have them. You just have modifiers, the only ability number you actually use. Instead of just random initiative, well, random except for in the case of the rogue who is always going first, Nimble's initiative system creates an environment where PCs can think and act tactically. We'll get into that a little further down this list. And if you're the kind of game master who likes to adjust existing rules and add homebrew mechanics, Nimble is incredibly resilient to that kind of tinkering. There are easy adjustments to make combat more or less dangerous, for example, and in my experience, Nimble has responded really well to the weird random stuff I like to throw in. Nimble's 3 core books are tiny. All 3 combined come to about the same length as one of the D&D 5.5 core books. But they have everything you need to run a game successfully. GM advice, encounter building rules, monsters and rules for making your own, magic items, you name it, it's there. But the way that it's presented actually reduces the cognitive load imposed by a system like 2024 D&D. You've already got enough to think about. Nimble doesn't sacrifice character options. One of the biggest complaints I hear about rules-light game systems is that they don't offer the kind of character options that D&D does. And there's definitely some truth to that, although to my mind, codifying so many options can lead to a lack of creativity on the part of the players. But Nimble 100% does not skimp on character options. Let's look at one of my favorite character classes, the Hunter, Nimble's equivalent of the D&D Ranger. You start out with the Hunter's Mark and Forager features at level 1, and upon hitting level 2, you get to add a Thrill of the Hunt ability like Multi-Shot or my favorite, Come Get Some. Yeah, you get those at level 2, because in Nimble, there are no dead levels. Of course, you get to choose your subclass at level 3, and as you keep advancing, you get to add more abilities and features. And that includes HP and skill point increases at every level. And with the success of Nimble's Monsters and More Kickstarter, pretty soon we'll have updated core classes and subclasses as well as some new ones. Nimble's monster design is just flat out superior for playability. The designers of D&D 2024 made some good changes in the latest monster manual. Many of the monsters are unique, they make for better challenges, the stat blocks are a little better organized, but honestly, the biggest pain point for a DM remains: running higher level and legendary monsters at the table. When I talked to Nimble creator Evan Diaz, he said this:
I don't think I've ever ran a 5e legendary monster correctly. It's like a full sheet, and then there's the lair actions, the legendary actions, and this ability and that ability, and like my brain is completely like at 100% capacity. Like I run out of RAM because like I'm trying to run this thing and I don't have any space to think about like, what is this monster saying?
And that led to the beautiful simplicity of Nimble's monster design. In Nimble, different monsters feel like different monsters. Kobolds and goblins are at the same level, but they have different features and abilities that make them feel unique to run and to fight. For example, goblins have the haha missed me feature. Whenever an attack misses them, they deal 1 psychic damage in return. To make a legendary or high-level monster fit its CR, a lot of times D&D designers just scale up the damage numbers, but that doesn't always make narrative sense. During our conversation, Evan shared his new unicorn design. It has a feature called iridescent glamor. Instead of making the unicorn hit like a hill giant or something, attacks against it deal a maximum of 10 damage, and the attacker takes the remaining damage. The unicorn is a sacred creature, so when you damage it, you also damage yourself.
Stop hitting yourself! Stop hitting yourself!
That is a unique and narratively significant monster. Nimble monster stat blocks are quick and easy to read. Even legendary monsters have a couple of features that make them unique and powerful, and they're incredibly easy to interpret and run at the table. Combat in 5e has always been notorious for dragging. When D&D released their new edition, instead of fixing that, they added more bloat, like weapon mastery. Nimble, on the other hand, completely eliminates the combat slog. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I've talked about it before, like in this video, the very first one I ever did on Nimble. Full disclosure, Nimble did sponsor that video, but I don't take a sponsorship unless I dig the product. They haven't sponsored one since, and I keep talking about it, so I guess you can draw your own conclusions on that. Nimble has a 3-action economy. Those actions include move, attack, cast a spell, or assess the situation. The heroes always go first in the order they choose, which allows them to plan tactics. Initiative only determines whether you get 1, 2, or all 3 of your actions on your first turn. You've got heroic reactions like defend to mitigate damage or interpose to take a hit for an ally, and you never roll to attack. You just roll your damage dice. A 1 is a miss, but everything else hits. And when you roll the max on the die, you crit and the dice explode. You get to roll again, and as long as you keep critting, you keep rolling damage. Where D&D 5.5e has hundreds of spells, some you roll to cast and some are saving throws, and this is another place where gameplay always seems to slow down, even though your wizard's probably just gonna cast Fireball again. Nimble's magic system is incredibly streamlined and intuitive. It decimates that bloated mountain of spells and completely does away with spell slots. Instead, Nimble has elemental magic schools like fire, ice, and wind. Spells are tiered, and you have access to every spell in your school at your tier. But the spells are also scalable. You can use mana to add range or aim at multiple targets, things like that. On the face of it, the extreme reduction in the number of spells looks like it's taking away player options. And in fact, that's a complaint I've heard more than once, but think about it. There are so many D&D spells that are just iterative or reskins. In Nimble, a single heal spell, for example, replaces a dozen D&D spells because you have the ability to upgrade your spells with mana. All you have to do is log on to the Nimble Discord server to see what a vibrant community has grown up around this game in a relatively short time. And a huge factor in the game's playability and success is Evan's responsiveness to community feedback. Here's what he had to say.
A lot of the development is just like, I'm just like live streaming the development. And like, here guys, this is something I made. Like, let me know what sucks. Like, what's not good? Or like, what feedback do you have? And like I'll just like honestly listen. As a developer, like if you can take that seriously, like you'll make the product better. Like you'll make the game experience better. So I've just taken the community very, very seriously, and like I've just been very, very grateful for all the help they provided.
That's a pretty good way to make a game. You have your philosophy and your ideas and your skills as a game designer, but you know you're making the game for an audience, and your audience knows what's fun for them. And when a community feels appreciated, like they're being listened to, they'll love you and they'll love your game. Some folks could probably learn from that. Adventurers, that's why I'm taking my campaign to Nimble. I would love to hear what you think. Are you intrigued by Nimble? Already made the switch? Are you sticking with D&D 5e or 5.5? Drop me a comment. If you dig this kind of content and want more of it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And please consider becoming part of the Adventurers Guild at patreon.com/shortreststudios or by hitting the join button under this video. We're updating the guild, and you get a great library of dice and logos maps, access to my campaign notes, and even the opportunity to help me decide what games I talk about next. Plus, you get access to my full interview with Evan and other game designers. Maybe you feel like Nimble's cool, but you're looking for something a little more on the brutal side. In this video, I show you how Shadow Dark fixes what D&D gets wrong. Check it out, and I'll see you on the next short rest. And remember, adventurers, you don't have to quest alone.